Hey everybody, this is Matt Breckwald from the Off Farm Income Podcast. I don't know, I got up this morning and decided I'm going to make another quick video just to put out there for you guys. Where you're at, do people sensationalize the weather to get ratings? This is something that's been going on where I live in Idaho, and if you listen to me on the Off Farm Income Podcast, you know that I am what do I call it? I weather dork? I don't know. I really, really like the weather. And so I follow it pretty closely. And I've noticed over the past several years here in the Treasure Valley of Idaho that there are people coming out and they are sensationalizing the weather forecast, particularly if it looks like there's a chance of snow, because, man, do they get ratings. Do they get clicks and follows and all of this stuff on social media. And it drives me nuts, especially working in agriculture. I mean, even on my small farm, if we've got a big snowfall forecast coming in, it changes what we do. I have to start preparing for that. And then if it doesn't come to fruition, it's a lot of wasted time and wasted effort and wasted resources that I could have been using somewhere else. So just for me, on a personal standpoint, because the weather impacts what we do here, just even on our little farm, on our small 25 acres, it's a major waste of time. So what I've done is I've completely abandoned listening to anybody but the National Weather Service. And I was lucky enough to do an interview with the National Weather Service here in Boise 2 years ago for the D&B Supply Show. For that podcast, you can find that on SoundCloud and iTunes if you want to hear that one. But I was able to do that. I was able to go and I met all the forecasters. They even let me launch the weather balloon, but I was able to see all the equipment they use, all the technology, how they draw up these forecasts, their network of stuff all around the nation to give them the most accurate forecasting models and ability, period. And this is just one of those things that the government is able to do better than private industry. And I am a private industry guy, no question. I'm an entrepreneur. I teach about entrepreneurship. We've got our own farm. We try and be self-sufficient, both financially and in food production and all that type of stuff. So I am a pro-business person, but there are some things that, I don't know, maybe if it had started out as a private industry thing, private industry could do the same job as the government. But to have weather stations and people and trained personnel in a network all around the United States and even abroad to monitor what's going on and come up with forecasts, nobody does that better than the government at this point. Not the Weather Channel, not CNN. The Weather Channel's related to CNN because Ted Turner owns all of that. And I love the Weather Channel. At least I did when I was in college. But anyway, this sensationalization of the weather is making me nuts. It makes me crazy, and it makes me think back to, when the 24-hour news cycle started when I was just a kid, but what that changed. When the news went from something that the FCC required you to put on TV in exchange for using those public airwaves, you had to provide a public good, which was the news every night, when that was something that stations had to do because they were required to by law, to when they figured out they could run a 24-hour news cycle and they could actually make money by people watching the news. All of a sudden, what happened to the news? They had to report the worst stuff, the most scary stuff, and just keep it in front of you all the time to keep you tuned in. Well, that is something that I've seen go on over time, and my career as a police officer definitely saw that happen over and over and over again, getting people hyped up so they would tune in. And now it's spread into the weather, and it just drives me nuts that it's spread into the weather. And it goes on here a lot. I don't know if it goes on where you're at, but we're always here in the Treasure Valley. We're always on the cusp of freezing and not freezing. And so we'll get a lot of storms that come in, and we don't get that much precipitation to begin with, 10, 11, 12 inches a year here in this valley. But we'll get storms that come in the winter, and there will be a chance of snow, but then the high that day is 38 degrees or 39 degrees. So the chance of accumulation is really low. And so I've lived here now, I've lived over half of my life either in Montana and Idaho, and I've lived in Boise since 2000. Oh my goodness, since 2000, or in the Boise area, I should say, because we're out on our farm now. So now we're looking at 19 years here. And so I've got anecdotal evidence of 19 years of snowfall, and we've had one major winter. And I thought it was awesome, by the way. But it was one major winter. And it wasn't awesome for a lot of people. We lost structures and things like that weren't built for the snow load that we had that year. That's out of 19 years. But now, over the next, I don't know, the rest of the month, we've got people saying we're going to be measuring snowfall in the valley here in feet. That's crazy, 1 to 2 feet. And it is sensationalization. Well, it was interesting yesterday that the National Weather Service here in Boise actually came out on social media and said, make sure you're getting your weather forecast from reputable sources, not from these sensationalists. Really interesting they took a stand like that. I applaud it. I think it's great. Obviously, it got me fired up. I'm talking about it today. So I would love to know what you think. Do you get sensationalized weather where you're at, or can you rely on the weather forecast you're getting from people other than the National Weather Service? Or have you just stopped listening to those people altogether if the weather forecast impacts how you do your job? And I'll tell you what, even if you're like me and you say, no, I'm just going to listen to the National Weather Service, there's always a little inkling of you when you hear one of these sensationalized forecasts of, oh boy, if I don't act, if they're right, I'm really going to be behind the 8 ball. So it's interesting. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. And I don't know why, but I woke up this morning. I still haven't even gone out and fed. The sun's not up. I got to go feed. But I wanted to talk about this. To me, this is super, super interesting. So I'd love to hear your thoughts. I'd love to have you tune in and listen to more of me on the Off-Farm Income Podcast, everybody. But for now, I want your thoughts on the sensationalization of weather forecasts. All right, have a great week, everybody.